Are you wondering how to get students to care about the world around them, and not just during Earth Month? What if the answer isn't more content, but more connection? Today I have 3 inspiring ways to bring relevance, joy, and real-world learning into your classroom. From global conservation stories that double as self-care, to community-powered learning that goes beyond the classroom walls. If you're a teacher looking for ideas that will engage students and feed your own curiosity, you're in the right place. Let's talk teaching, connection, and how we can make learning bloom this spring. I'm Matt, and this is the planning period. As we near the end of Earth Month and Environmental Education Month, let me be the first to recommend that you continue teaching young people about the environment all year. And if you need help doing that, you should check out one of my favorite shows ever, Wild Hope. Wild Hope is honestly more than a show. It's a platform for conservation stories from all over the world. And they have their original slate of 30-minute TV shows. There are 8 episodes, complete with accompanying lesson plans that you can bring into your instruction. But what I love is that those 8 stories of conservation successes weren't enough. So since the initial release last year, they've been producing 2 or 3 new stories each month. And these ones range in length, so you can use them as a full lesson and discussion, or just a quick video to watch at the end of a class period or as a warm-up. Honestly, the episodes are so good that these could be great to have students watch at home with their families. And I'd even recommend that you take time to watch these at home also, because Teacher Appreciation Week is coming up, and I feel like watching a positive conservation story about a cute animal species could be a good little moment of self-care. Wild Hope also has active social channels, which I think might be the best way to get you a glimpse of their work. So we're gonna scroll through some Instagram videos together right now. So this is the Wild Hope Instagram page at Wild Hope TV. We're gonna check out some of their really nice short form content that's available on here. They've been doing this really interesting series. The Smithsonian's National Zoo had a problem. Oh, this is an interesting one. So they did, one of the latest episodes was all about how glass and windows can be an issue for birds. I think this could be a really interesting inquiry. Students can identify bird species and think about the birds in your community. And there's a case study here of a solution to birds actually colliding with windows because they think they can fly through them. And so one of the solutions is to put some designs on the windows, and it looks like the National Zoo has an example of this. I'm gonna click through some of their other videos. Ooh, this one's about frogs. Apparently April is National Frog Month. I think some of your students would be really, really excited about these adorable frogs. This segment is particularly interesting because of the environment and technology connection here. It says, deep in the Panamanian rainforest, scientists are using AI-powered recorders to listen for the calls of lost frogs, species that haven't been seen in years but may still exist in remote and isolated populations. Could be fascinating for some students. This is an adorable video of a manatee that I think anybody would just love watching. Manatees are like some of the cutest, largest, awesome creatures. Let's see, ooh, tigers. Tigers are Central India's apex predators. This is a great opportunity to talk to young students about what apex predators are, help them learn about the food chain, help them learn about how predation is important and how animals interacting with each other is one of the most important aspects of conservation and ecological science. And even though it might be hard to think about carnivorous animals eating other species, that's a really, really important part of ecological balance and biodiversity. Let's see, ooh, whale sharks. Locals are using live performance to teach conservation. Interesting. Local efforts by fishermen communities are embracing whale shark conservation using live performances and life-size models to spread awareness. This could be a really cool way to learn about a way that a community has gotten involved with conservation efforts and promoting education around conservation, and maybe even encouraging your students to think about a species in our community here in Michigan that could benefit from something similar, and what are ways that our communities might get involved to create shows that help people learn more about what they can do as citizen scientists. Another thing, I think even if you scroll through like this whole series here, it looks like we've got a series on small primates. The golden lion tamarin is facing a fight for survival. These are adorable, colorful creatures. Ooh, there's a cool one here. Hawaiian honey creepers are a prime example of something called adaptive radiation. I don't know what that means, but it sounds really interesting. There are now over 50 unique species that evolved from a single species 6 or 7 million years ago. What a cool opportunity to use a real-world example as you're talking to students about evolution and how species change over time, and especially how the environment and the world and maybe even human development impacts ecological development and evolution, and all these different unique kinds of birds that look so different but apparently came from the same species originally. Oh, here's one more cute one. Oh, black-footed ferrets. So there's lots of really cool content on here. Again, I think you could surf through this short form content with your students. They would probably have fun picking out videos that they want to look into, and then all of these short form videos point to longer episodes that I think would be really interesting to bring in. Again, just to watch together, to inspire student curiosity, and to make some connections and maybe even develop some project-based learning experiences where students are emanating or replicating what's being done in these episodes to promote education and conservation. So check out Wild Hope. Again, one of my favorite programs. Watch it yourself, tell your students to watch it, tell their families to watch it, and bring it into your classroom because there's so much opportunity for learning there. So this week in 1897, Michigan students overwhelmingly voted for the sweet crabapple to be named the state flower. The broad support for this blossom was because it was widely regarded as the most fragrant and most beautiful flower, and it's an apple blossom, and apple production is and has always been an important part of Michigan's culture and economy. This is also super fun because it's early spring, and this is exactly the time of year when we start to see these blooms along with so many others. Ask your students this week what kind of plants they've seen popping up on the side of the road, outside of the school, or in spaces around where they live. Inviting students to pause and notice the world around them and then share what they notice is a great practice for mindfulness, communication, and building community in your classroom. And amidst testing season and feeling tired after a long winter and all the things that are going on in May, it might be a great opportunity for a check-in. You could even build in some bonus physical activity by encouraging students to take walks or bike rides, helping them build a springtime routine where they soak up vitamin D, get some fresh air, move their bodies, and just generally reset with the season. You can use this as a springboard into talking about the seasons and what happens when weather shifts and how ecosystems are affected and how we are impacted by longer days, more sunlight, more grass, and green leaves and flowers. Students might want to talk about gardening and landscaping, about outdoor recreation in our state, about travel. The list goes on, but if you open up the discussion, I bet you'll be impressed with where they take it. If you want to dig in deeper to this content from the Michigan angle, there are other state symbols that you can share with your students, and maybe you can ask them what they'd add to the list. Is there a different flower in your part of the state that they think is more valuable or recognizable? What about a state food, a state scent or sound? As always, I'd love to hear what you and your students talk about. For our PD today, I have two stories from events lately that have inspired me to think about how our communities can support lifelong learning. First, a few weeks ago, the Michigan Learning Channel got to participate in the first ever Spark Festival for Learning held at the University of Michigan. This event was put on by staff in the School of Education, and it was a great space for educators and organizers to network, but it was also meant to be a public event where community members and families could come to just experience a variety of examples of teaching and learning. We brought some media challenges and equipment, and the Leslie Science Center was there with a snake, and there was a group demonstrating bike repair services and another group that brought VR goggles and interactive games. It was cool to see different people and community groups come together to showcase what they know and how they share that knowledge with others. It really was a celebration of learning with no goal other than to celebrate learning. The following week, we supported a poetry workshop led by Jeff Cass, one of our Read, Write, Roar teachers. Jeff shared some really interesting techniques for getting students writing after inspiring them to look closely and critically at art, film, popular culture, and other visual artifacts. And I was struck by the variety of educators and people in the room who are doing all kinds of teaching in classrooms and libraries, universities, after-school programs, and other spaces in our communities. The event was also hosted at a unique space space in Ypsilanti called the Dzanc House, which is a house that exists for the sole purpose of hosting artistic and literary events for the community. How cool! So why am I sharing these stories with you? Well, being in spaces like this has me thinking about the ways that schools are already set up to be community hubs and spaces for communal learning, and how we can learn from and build on some of these creative and innovative community solutions for lifelong learning. For example, many communities around the state have arts programming through local museums, art galleries, and nonprofits. Have you looked into what exists in your community? I've been amazed at the number of arts organizations I've connected with that offer art instruction in addition to in-person and virtual showcases, family engagement events, and even access to publishing. For example, 826 Michigan is the Southeast Michigan-based chapter of the national organization 826 National, and they support educators and schools with writing workshops, writing prompts, on-demand lesson plans, and after-school programming, but they also operate a big-time publishing house where they publish student writing. In Grand Rapids, there's an organization called the Diatribe that hosts all kinds of empowering workshops for young people after school and during the summer, and they also offer assemblies and opportunities for classroom-based learning. I know, we're already expected to do so much as teachers, but in my experience, while a community partnership might take some additional energy during the startup phase, it can also make teaching and learning more successful because kids tend to be more engaged in what they're learning, they're building real-world skills that lead to real-world products, and as the teacher, you have an opportunity to expand your toolkit and collaborate with people outside your classroom. But it's really not just that incorporating your community into teaching is cool and engaging. There's actually research that proves that partnerships and collaborative programs have real impact on student learning. The Learning Policy Institute found that schools that build strong community partnerships with universities, museums, and local nonprofits see measurable academic gains, especially for students in under-resourced areas. They also found that these programs drive attendance, engagement, and achievement. A 2017 report from the National Endowment for the Arts found that at-risk learners who participate in community arts programs, which would include programming inside and outside of school, are 23% more likely to attend college than peers who did not. And another longitudinal study from NEA cites multiple statistics that demonstrate the power of community learning for social emotional development, empathy, and critical thinking. In other words, partnerships aren't extra, they're essential. They create access, open doors, and connect learning to the real world. As classroom teachers, how do we make this magic happen for our students? Well, the good news is that you can probably start within your district. There may be someone in your building or district who already has a list of community partners who are just waiting for you to reach out. Or maybe there's someone on your school board or PTO who can help make a connection. Think about a unit or project that you lead with students that could use something extra, a guest speaker, a publishing opportunity, a field trip, and start asking. If you don't get any answers in the building, start looking into community organizations in your community. In my experience, people in the community are thrilled when they're invited to support learning in schools, and it can be pretty easy to pull together some interviews, a career fair, a film screening and discussion, a virtual tour, a writing workshop, or one of the many other activities that can benefit your students. As always, we're ready to help you with this. Our MLC team is all over the state, embedded in communities with our own partnerships that we know can benefit your students. So if you need some help getting started, don't hesitate to reach out. As an added bonus, I'm going to link a list of grant opportunities specifically for teachers provided by one of our iconic Michigan teaching fellows so that you can make sure you have additional funding if you need materials or buses for field trips or stipends for guest speakers or whatever else comes up. Thanks for spending some of your planning period with me today. I hope you're walking away with at least one idea to bring more connection, joy, or real-world learning into your classroom. Did anything spark your curiosity? Drop it in the comments. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with another educator who could use some inspiration this week. Until next time, keep going and keep growing.
This program is made possible in part by the state of Michigan and by viewers like you. Thank you.